Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Check-In. Thanks for checking in with me today. Today I'm going to talk about Thailand and culture, Thai culture. This is part two. You might have seen the other video, or if you haven't already, go and check that out. I'm just going to sort of continue where sort of more or less where I left off. Um, so Thai culture is a very interesting thing because it's full of sort of contradictions. Really, it's full of opposites and very much polar opposites. It's a wild, bizarre. It's a wild, bizarre culture because it's like I said in the last video. There's so much influence in the country, especially in regards to religion and food, because of the influence of one of the big influences is really of China and um, India. Of course, like I said in the last video, there is a couple of things from countries that surround Thailand, very close to Thailand, that have had some influence over it. Laos is one of those. Laos is one of those countries. Cambodia has to a certain extent. Um, but Vietnam as well. Vietnam has had some influence over Thai cuisine, and you can see that as you come here. But even in regards to fruit and vegetables, some of those things were introduced from European countries when trade lines and trade routes were set up. So, what do I mean by polar opposites? Well, that's really something that you would have to come here and see for yourself. Because I'm not going to name everything because I'm not trying to be disrespectful and seen as being disrespectful to Thai people, Thai culture, because I'm not trying to do that at all. There's I'll give you some examples. Like, for example, to the feet, the feet of a person is deemed in town to be the lowest point in the body, which is obviously true, but the dirtiest, and to some extent that's true as well, although that could be debated. Now, the feet in Thailand are not really supposed to be touched. Like, you're not supposed to wipe your feet with a towel. Yet, when you go to a massage parlor or a massage shop, parlor's probably not the right word, but a massage shop, they will clean your feet for you. They will do it for you. So it's like there's sort of one strange thing. Um, well, the weather's polar opposites many times. You know, you can have an hour of blasting sun, and then an hour of absolute manic rain. Um, Also, sometimes, with regards to things like politics, if you want to talk about politics, Farangs or foreigners are sort of prohibited from, are not allowed really to, well, not allowed, but are advised to not talk about subjects like the royal family, the politics in this country. Yet between Thai people, they talk about things like that. So what I mean really is, there's things that Thai people do themselves. There's a lot of things, but it took me a long time to name them all. That within the circle, the Thai community, things like gossiping, for example, are sort of accepted and normal. But yet, if a foreign person does that, it's not. And you could say, well, yeah, well, that's Thailand. It's Thai culture. It's their culture. Yes, but it's just so, it just seems a bit irrational and a little bit just well, unfair really, and it's just contrasts. Like for example, pointing at things. You're not supposed to point at pictures or even at people or anything really. Yet you see Thai people do that all the time. Um, um, Sometimes it's just some of the things that I see all the time as well. It's like there's just so many things. There's lots of things, but I can't say it too much, so many of them because otherwise it might offend somebody. And of course, we all know what type of world we're living in now in regards to those types of things. So I'll not. I'll keep some of my opinions, my thoughts about those things to myself. Um, I just it's not even just so much it's the opposites or contrasts or sort of things that are allowed between people that are allowed into the country and between the locals. It's just things that you see all the time, like, and just things that, for me as a Brit, as someone that comes from the Western world, really that's what all this is really about. It's sort of my own Western perspective on this part of Southeast Asia, really. And for what I could sort of deem to be, irrational thinking, and like for example, in Thailand they have things like sort of like spirit houses, and I respect that this is part of Thai culture, and I'm not trying to in any way shine a bad light on it. Not at all. I'm just sort of pointing out things that I've witnessed, really, what I've seen. Giving, you sort of told. Well, sometimes people say you shouldn't waste things or leave food on the floor, but yet you see that all the time outside. In these spirit houses, and that waste, just giving bottles of soda and food to out and just leaving them on these. You're not supposed to sort of feed the soy dogs because it'll attract them all. Yet you see, them all over the place because Thai people throw out food all the time, and it's a bit. It's just interesting, really. It's just very interesting to me, and some of the ways that Thai people do things as well, as to me, it just doesn't make any sense. Like you'll see teams of gardeners, or what probably would be deemed classed as gardeners. Not there's probably not really. Just people using strimmers and like gardening equipment. You see them all the time on the side of the motorway, on the side of the roads, and the soils and whatever. And I just think, and sometimes I've asked about this before, why that and it's obviously part of it is to give people jobs, but it's apparently it's one of the reasons because it's supposed to save money. Well, surely you're not really saving that much money if you're employing 80 odd people or whatever it is, for God knows how many square miles or whatever it is of a part of a city, when you could just use one tractor with a cutting machine on the back, with a flail on the back of it. But of course, and then of course people worry about migrants and the people coming in from Myanmar and Cambodia and doing these jobs. Well, maybe if you actually gave those people actually chances to actually study in Thailand or have better jobs where they could actually earn some serious money, or they'd contribute more to the local economy, and they'd also excuse me, they'd also be able to contribute more to their own economies, building their economies, and probably having better relationships between them. Another thing is sometimes you see people on ladders, huge ladders, sometimes with not people not even holding the bottoms of these ladders, and these are people that are supposed to be sort of trade electrical engineers, I guess, or people that work in the electric industry, or maybe I don't know, cables, basically. In Thailand, most pretty much predominantly all of the cables are overhead. In regards to, I think, electric and internet and all that sort of thing, I believe. But you never see like a sort of lorry or anything, which they have here, many of them. We're talking about Thailand. We're not talking about some godforsaken part of India or some godforsaken part of Africa that's still stuck in the Stone Ages. We're talking about a country that's fairly developed. Okay, yes, like I said before, it's developing. It's still very much on the up in many regards, but it's more or less developed in a modern sense of the word. Um, there's huge shopping malls here. It's just this thing of I just see waste all the time in this country, and it's one of the things about Buddhism is supposed to sort of preach this whole thing of live within your means. Yet you see one of the traditions of Thai etiquette is to order as many dishes as you can basically, and then proceed to waste about 30-40% of it. And of course, a lot of that just goes in the garbage. Why do you do it? Why don't you just save it and give it to the dogs, or why not give it even to the monks even? And this is the thing about the infrastructure here. There's so much bad infrastructure in regards to the road management, and but yet when you go to the and this sounds like I'm completely bitching and slagging off the country, and I'm sorry if it's coming across like I'm not. It's not. I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to be honest. And um, if I like I said in the last video, if I didn't love being in Thailand, I would have gone home. I love it here. It's just that sometimes I just look at things and like just doesn't really make much sense to me. But that's Thailand. That's that Thai culture. That's the Thai way of life. And it's not. I respect it. I respect it, and that's how things are. I just wanted to. This is my channel, and I'll be honest about things to a certain extent, without going overboard. And that's what I'll do. And if I get flagged or if I get into trouble for it, then so be it. It's my life, and I will say within the law, within the boundaries. I'll say whatever the hell I want. And if you don't like it, or if anybody's watching this that don't like it, swiftly move on to another channel. Which I very much doubt there will be anybody really watching this, but if anybody does and they don't like anything I groove, then so what? I don't care. You don't have to agree with everything I say or think. I'm sure I wouldn't agree with everything that you say or think. But yeah, there's just a lot of inconsistency. There's a lot of in what it was certainly in the West, what would be considered to be irrational, very superstitious type thinking. Very. I don't want to say backwards because it's sort of have very bad connotations to it, but it just I just think there's better ways of doing things that could save money, that could make the country much more efficient, much more smoother, and probably better for people. And yet it is what it is, and believe me, England is not perfect by any means either. There's a lot of things in England that people do and say that make absolutely really no sense. People are superstitious there. I've seen things there that really are irrational. So I'm not trying to say, Thailand's, living in the 1500s and England's living in whatever century. I'm not saying that. This is my platform, and these are videos that I want to make about things that I want to talk about. So yeah, Thai culture is fascinating. It's very interesting because of the incredibly long history and so many influences of different kings of that time that have shaped it. But really, I'd say that one of the major kings, if not the most major, probably was Rama IX, was an incredible man, changed this country beyond really all recognition and made it into a much better country. It just for so many people, and in so many different projects that were so important to Thai people, or certainly at the very least, certainly important to him and the Queen, the previous Queen. So, and you can see that in the parks and so many, even in the temples, some schools, and all sorts of different things that he helped to build, or brought into the legislation and things that eventually help to create those projects and build those places. Things like water management, like forest management and education, things like that. Just things that are obviously massively important, and just visiting people, giving people hope. Well, let's sort of move away from some of those grey areas or elements of criticism, or Western critical things that anybody with a slight bit of an open eye might look at and think, Anyway, let's move away from that. But the best thing to do really is to just come here and see it for yourself. It's very easy for me to ramble on and say, well, not ramble on, but to sound like I'm coming across like I'm being overly critical or overly analytical about everything I've seen or whatever. But really, the best thing for you to do is just to come here and see for yourself and live here for a while, and you'll see some of those things. And like as I've said in the first video, part 1 is that there is a huge difference between being a short-term traveller or in a long-term, well, more short-term really, traveller and actually someone that's sort of, well, still a traveller, but living here for a certain amount of time, or living this part of the world for a certain amount of time. Because of a while, it does kind of affect you. It does kind of change you after a while. The culture here does that as well, because it's very. People in Thailand are very much like British people in regards to their reserved, conservative-like nature, but but it's more or less that's about the really more probably the only really thing that sort of got in common, apart from sort of types of conversations that they have in regards to things like weather and food and gossip and things like that, which I think probably you could find that in most cultures, in most. More or less, just sort of global, average conversations, really. But yeah, you've got to be very careful as a foreigner in another country to not lose your own perspective on things completely. You've got to be open. You've got to be able to accept and respect things as they are. But that doesn't mean that you can't have an opinion on them, at least in your own head. Sometimes it's best to just don't say anything, obviously, because it might get you locked up. Obviously every country has its own laws and its own culture, its own ethics, what they deem to be ethics, and just sort of codes or sort of on things that you can only really understand after you've been here for a while. The types of things that are acceptable to say in a language and things that aren't. Things that what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of cultural codes, cultural practices, and just ways in which that the natives like to feel that they're in some way superior, or there is an element of that here as well. There is an element of a bit of arrogance, or I'll just say this and I'll move on to something more positive. But there is an element of arrogance here. Not all, obviously, not all population types, but there is an element of arrogance. There is an element of ignorance here, but then that's everywhere. The perception of the West is rather quite blurred, really. It's not very realistic. It's certainly not a 3D type outlook. And as I've said before, one of the reasons that Thai people are so arrogant, I think, of course, not everybody, but a fair number of people, let's say that, I think it's because there's so much in Thailand that so many countries that are close to Thailand don't really have. They don't have the same infamous. Um, Thailand's very, very, very famous. It's had a long, long history with Europe, certainly with countries like France and Portugal and England, in terms of immigration anyway, well, and trade. Um, but I think it's Thailand is so fortunate to have so many resources here in terms of marine life, river life, unbelievable amounts of uh, populations of fish, different types of fish, different animals, so many forests, so much, just like I said, natural beauty, real natural beauty. The ocean, the beaches, the mountains. In the north you've got all the mountain areas. It's much cooler up there. In the south you've got the islands. It's one of the major things for tourists coming here. Um, the diet, the lifestyle, the culture's more laid back, but that sometimes can be a bit of an annoyance after a while. And there's a lot of things in Thai culture that can be very obnoxious. And here's another thing about contrasts is, the element of not losing face and embarrassing people, but it's okay for Thai people to embarrass foreigners. But when you embarrass a Thai person, it's deemed completely unacceptable. It might as well be a law that you've just broken, because that's how it's treated. And of course, he said, well, if you don't like it, go back home. Yeah, you're right, I can, but I'm not going to. These are my observations. These are my thoughts. And I still love Thailand. I still love living here. Still like it. Still, I would if I hated it, I'd be in bloody Russia or America or somewhere. It's just me pointing out things that I've seen. That's all. Don't be offended. I have a right to offend. You have a right to be offended to a certain extent, but you don't have a right to censor what I say. There's a contrast between noise as well. There's contradictions because you're deemed as, basically in Thailand, to lose face is to be seen as to lose your status, basically. So you can't really embarrass anybody, even if you didn't. If you do embarrass somebody, sometimes it can be forgiven because people understand you're a foreigner. But sometimes they won't forgive you. The Thai people can be very, very serious, which is odd because they talk about not being serious all the time. So there we go. There's another thing. But the aspect of noise as well. You're not supposed to be noisy. You're not supposed to raise your voice, be loud, or be obnoxious. Yet Thai people do that all the time. Very, very loud conversations, even when two people are stood right next to each other. Completely unacceptable, not levels of volume in regards to people playing music in their own cars, but also just people, just the unbelievable amount of advertisements that there is in this country. They have these trucks, these like pickup trucks, that blast out these just horrible, in my opinion, horribly annoying. I mean, they work. So they're obviously effective because they obviously get people to. That's why they're continuing to do so. But it's just, I just think it's unacceptable that you're taught to be respectable and understanding of Thai people and Thai culture, yet you've got all this unbelievably absurd racket that's happening all the time around you. So I guess what it's really about, and these is that to some extent I don't understand Thailand, and that's one of the reasons I'm still here is that element of mysteriousness. But there's also no elements of things that I do understand, and I've got to know partly through learning some of the language, and just for spending time here and getting to know a little bit of history and sort of cultural history, and differences in elements of culture between different places, even just in terms of family, different families and so forth, and also having a partner here helps as well to get a foot in the door of the understanding of that. So some of that stuff. Um, it's a fascinating place. It's an incredible place, but there's a lot of things that, as a Brit, probably that's because of part of my nature, part of my personality, my attitude, my outlook, my mentality, whatever. And I agree with a lot of that. That it is some of that stuff, or maybe all of it, maybe. But it's also just about being observant, and after a while, you just see things, and you can't really do much about that. You just see things, and you as for me, as someone that comes from part of the world that you sort of taught to question things and to be constantly trying to search for the truth and the facts and logic. There's a lot of things that I should not really. I should just leave and I should just look and just not think anymore about it. But it's too. It's irresistible sometimes. It's irresistible, and it's. I just laugh really a lot of the time. I don't laugh at that. Oh yes, this is a stupid way of thinking or doing something. It's nothing like that. It's just kind of like. It's just bizarre, really. It's bizarre to me, and then that's one of the things I like about Thailand is that there is some elements of bizarreness, if that's even a word, here. And but of course, like I said in part one, it's that applies to everybody that goes to another country. No matter how long you stay somewhere, there's an element of yourself that thinks I'm never going to understand this place fully, and I think that is true. Unless you was born, educated, studied, you can fully speak the language. You grew up surrounded by ties and different, and just you've just done the whole Thailand experience, really, whatever that is. Um, Time, you really, you got to spend enough time here, and I'm not saying I have spent enough time here. I haven't, not really, not near enough as I should have done. And I should actually have more knowledge and understand about this country and its culture than I actually do. But so the weather is fantastic. It's amazing. It's just a way of life over here. It's more relaxed, and as I said, that can sometimes be a great asset to you, and sometimes it can be an incredible annoyance. And as a traveler, you have to be able to. It's like a relationship, really. It's about what you are willing to tolerate in the end, and why do you tolerate it? Is it just because you love being in this country, or is it that the other options aren't so good? Whatever. Obviously the one of the major elements of Thai culture is the huge influence of Buddhism and the types of the stories that are associated with Buddha that influence have a massive influence on people's lives and how people think and how people react to situations, and in that way Buddhism's actually very good. But I also think there's an element of subservientness here as well, and that's partly because of Buddhism, but it's not just that. I think that's part of the very quiet, very 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 shy nature of Thai people. It not, which is obviously very very another contrast, another opposite thing is when people get drunk in Thailand, they become completely different, almost different people. I suppose I better leave it there before I ramble on way too long and I potentially say something that might get me landed in jail here, which I wasn't planning to do. But anyway, I may make a part 3 to this in another couple of days. Thank you for checking in with me again. Let's check out. See you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks.